Do you speak crowdlending? Welcome to our podcast covering the crowdlending industry. Our mission is to provide you with all the insights from this market and help you make informed decisions. I'm Gassan, co-founder and CEO of Acredius. We are a crowdlending platform based in Zurich, Switzerland. I'm delighted to host this podcast and hopefully bring value to all our listeners. Hi everyone, I'm glad today to have Roger Bossard, CFO and founder at Crowd4Cash, with us today in this new chapter of Do You Speak Crowdlending and in this new exciting new year. Welcome, Roger.
Thank you, Gushen. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Excellent. So, Roger, can you tell us a bit more about yourself?
Yeah, I'm, as you already mentioned, I'm CFO and founder of Crowd4Cash. I'm already in the travel of the crowdlending space for around 4 years, since the first concept and the whole market implementation. I'm originally a lawyer. That means I studied law in Zurich, and afterwards I went to a Swiss bank, large bank, major bank, and ended up in some business project leads where I could really gain some deep experience of the market, and as well from the project side I could learn a lot about IT projects and business projects.
Great. So basically from studies in law to banking to consulting and then to crowdlending. So what made you go through this entire journey and then to crowdlending at the end?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question. After the studies, I had really enough from the university. I couldn't imagine to stay another 3 years for a PhD and the whole lawyer exams and so on. Therefore, I decided to go to bank because I was always interested in the finance part. And as already mentioned, I was there for around 10 years in many different jobs and situations. I ended up in a vice president role, which is quite good. And I decided to go out to have some consulting experience, because that was really missing part in my CV. Yeah, and in the end, I heard from Crowdlending. So then in summer 2015, it took a bit longer to really take the decision to go in this adventure. But
how did you hear about crowdlending? It was like an article, a study? Or?
Yeah, I think it was an article in Cash, cash.ch in summer 15 something.
Okay.
From I think that was a foreign platform they wrote about. And it took a bit longer, and it was really something I thought the market itself isn't really playing well, because especially in consumer loan basis or a space, you have just a few players, a handful of players, whereof many of them are really fixed on the maximum interest level. And the market it isn't working. I think still it isn't not working in some areas. And that was really the mixture of my background, the cool idea, the market which was there, and there was nothing, nearly nothing in Switzerland. And that was a pretty good thing to go out from the corporate jobs to jump in this cool topic.
Interesting. According to you, what are the main advantages of this asset class?
Yeah, there are several. Not just the return of this asset class is very interesting, but just to have this low volatility of the assets itself. You have no market dependencies to other assets. There are some studies which show quite good that the correlation of crowdlending assets is quite low compared to shares and to bonds. and that gives, in my opinion, a really good possibility to increase the Sharpe ratio of your portfolio. That means that's a good additional asset class to have in the portfolio, also in quite hard times in the markets, and therefore, that's a combination, in my opinion, the advantages from these three parts, and by the way, the return is quite good in the end, and that's especially for some professionals, it's quite important.
Great. So, Roger, you told me earlier that you believe we need more innovation in this market to go to the next level. And you already said a little bit like, we're not doing so good, and you think that we can be way better. Any thoughts you would share about this?
It's not doing good, but we could do it better. I'm a bit afraid about two or three things in the market. At first, we have really to differentiate from the existing banks, because the differentiation between the platforms and banks, there is a differentiation, but I'm not sure if it's really enough to stay competitive when the banks will react. Currently, the market is too small. The whole market isn't hurt anybody in the market, in the traditional market at the moment. But especially if they really decide to go with their power in the market, in the digitalization of the whole process, in the product design. They have knowledge, of course, because they do it for years and even more. That could really reduce the gap or the advantage of the existing platforms.
So do you think that they would one day go through that when the volumes go higher?
In my opinion, they will. There were different possibilities. You may take the steps by yourself to design a new product, or you will go in the market and buy a player.
Exactly.
There are two different ways, and then I have no idea in which direction it will go, of course. But if you see in different markets or other markets where you really can apply for a consumer loan in 1 minute, that's a real differentiation to the bank. To be honest, I don't know exactly how we do it in Switzerland, because the regulations are quite strict, and it's quite hard to do it. But there I personally see really the big advantage if you have such a big differentiation. And then the advantage is big enough to really grow fast, like we see in the other markets. Nevertheless, we have strong growth. We have still a strong growth in the whole market, which is exciting, which is really amazing. But if we get some competition from the traditional market, which comes into the market in the crowd, or not even in the crowdlending market, in the digital loan market, then we have, I think, a little to move little to really stay ahead.
But just to stay on a positive note, we would still nevertheless brought the market to a better level for consumers, for loans, for digitalization. So we would have been successful nevertheless. So in what other aspects do you think we can do better?
There, as already mentioned, innovation is quite important. We have some advantages because the costs are lower. We are fintech companies, and there are some opportunities we have really to catch in the current status, and we are able to develop some products which are not really feasible for the traditional banks because of the costs, because probably also of the technical capabilities we have developed over the time. And we have to, in my opinion, to really figure out some some opportunities into new products, especially to get the advantage of it. For example, our platform developed a really unique solution for a short loan, which is a bridge financing for 1 up to 3 months. To be honest, that you are just able to afford this sort of a loan if your costs are
clearly
low. And in our opinion, for example, the traditional banks can't follow in this market.
Too small, too costly for them, right?
Exactly. And that's a differentiation. That's not really a big market, not yet. But in the end, it's really differentiation. We may go ahead or go forward. To take advantage of our cost basis.
I was going to ask you about Crowd4Cash. How is Crowd4Cash doing? What are the current, future projects? How are things?
Yeah, we are still growing like the market. Our growth is significantly over the market, but in the end, we just established as number 4 in Switzerland with this generalist. We are still we have to grow in the end, but I think we are growing, and we are developing, and that's just to go in this innovation point. We are developing new products currently, which we are as well the first in Switzerland, and they are quite. We got quite good feedback there. That's also on the investor side, where we still struggling in sometimes or some bigger projects, and we are currently developing as well some new products there, which are new in the market, and that's a part of the innovation. We as a team try to really think, more than banking. In the end, it's everything in the financial part, but there are some possibilities where we have to differentiate, and where we may differentiate because we are small, we are extremely agile indeed, and in the end, it's all about costs. And if you have the costs really, or if you have the costs under control, you may do some new things.
Interesting. So speaking about investors, what would be your advice for private investors?
It's for me, it's the most important thing to really consider diversification. Because it's important to have as many investments you have, and as well the diversification between the platforms. It's not just a diversification at one platform. There are each platform has its strengths and some weaknesses. That's normal. But diversification of the number is quite important. You may have the best credit scoring model. You can't really see the future. It happens, or some parts or some things happens in the future, or they don't. And that's always a prediction you do there, and therefore to do really a few baskets, and of course take the possibility and the chance to invest in crowdlending, because there are significant advantages, but do it just as a part of your portfolio. And when you consider everything of these advices, in my opinion, you will have a good return and a lot of fun with this.
Great.
As a class.
Not only financial return, but fun return.
Of course, it takes some work to do it in the end. Even you have an auto invest or something like this, it takes some work.
Sure.
And but in the end, you see your portfolio growing, and that's pretty cool, I think.
Great. So we spoke a little bit about Crowd4Cash, but I'm fairly curious. How was 2019 for Crowd4Cash?
Was really an amazing year. We could do some progress because if you have, you may imagine, if you have a platform, you have all the technical capabilities, you have a stable team, you may really move forward. And 2019 was this year, or one of these years, where you really are able to go forward from a stable point with all preconditions you need to go to grow. And we launched a lot of new things. We launched the short loan I already mentioned. We launched an auto invest function. We were able to issue some investors products in the market for to institutionals. And we made really a good progress in the whole volume. I think that's a good basis. And in the end, I think we did a lot of work for 2020, as we saw. There are some prospective, some interesting players also in the market, new players, and let's find a combination there. But in the end, we have the big advantage that we have a fully owned platform, which is built from the scratch by us, and that gives us a lot of flexibility to go in the market with new product within nearly weeks, and that's absolutely great. And we plan to go forward like this to really bring some innovations and some especially operational improvements all a few weeks at least.
That's great. So Roger, what's your view on the Swiss market from the investor perspective, and how do we compare to other markets?
Yeah, I personally see some shift from the private investors to institutionals. I think the institutionals, especially in Switzerland, are traditionally quite conservative in kind of, they just want to have a look, is it work or not? They want to have a track record. That's absolutely understandable. But now I personally see that the market has some track record. The negative interest environment is not helping them. And therefore, crowdlending is an excellent alternative. And we see some shift and some interest as well from the institutional market. And for me, it's very positive, because in other markets, especially in the UK and US market, the shift was done a few years ago, and there was really a shift from the private market into around 80 to 90% institutional market with own product, with our funds, and so on. And I personally think that shift is gonna happen in the next few years, and we are currently starting with this shift. And that's very positive for the market itself.
So Roger, do you like vegetables?
Yes.
So what is your preferred fruit?
I like banana, I like apple, but my favorite fruit is passion fruit.
Passion fruit? Why?
Yes, I like this combination between the mineral and the fruity taste. That's absolutely great.
Okay. So thank you very much, Roger, for being with us today, and for all the insights you shared with our listeners. I hope you yourself enjoyed this episode. And thank you again, and see you next time.
Thank you much for having me here. It was a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks again for staying with us until the end. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media so you never miss an episode. Please don't hesitate to send us your questions and comments at acredius.ch. Thank you.